Welcome to the show today. I am your host, Daniel Collier, and we are on The Search For. Today we are looking at the millennial reign of Christ and the camp of the saints. For you who do not know about this, there are many who believe that Jesus Christ has already returned and reigned for 1,000 years and now resides in what's called the camp of the saints. Why do they believe this? Well, partially because of evidence that is arising now that proves that history has been altered to such an extreme that we now question the realities of what we were taught in school, what we learned in church, and what is happening in the world today. Remember that Jesus looked at those who were standing there, and he said to them, "There are those of you who are standing here who will not taste death until you see the return of the Son of Man."
Truly I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom.
Meaning that in their lifetime, he would be returning. And based on that evidence, there are many people who now believe, because of the great and grand structures of castles and buildings and structures and cathedrals, and the ability to build these things with residence frequencies and the ability to create these beautiful structures that make no sense under the timelines and the historical narratives that we were taught, such as ox carts and chisels, that the stones that they used in these buildings were much too hard for the chisels that existed in those days. When Jesus looked at those and said, "In my Father's house there are many mansions, and I go to prepare a place for you," that those structures that we see nowadays were the remnants left over of these structures that Jesus talked about. Now, these are theories, but they are becoming widespread now as people are beginning to learn that there is much more to this world than we have been taught. So in the Search For series today, we are looking at the possibility of the location of the camp of the saints. Now, in the book of Revelation, we read that the armies of the world would be gathered together when Satan is released, and they would gather together to go to war against Jesus and his saints.
Revelation 20 verse 9, and Satan's army marched across the earth and gathered around the camp of God's people and the city God loves. But fire came down from heaven and burned them up. 10 And Satan, who tricked them, was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur with the beast and the false prophet. There they will be punished day and night forever and ever. People of the world are judged. 11 Then I saw a great white throne and the one who was sitting on it. Earth and sky ran away from him and disappeared.
In the old world maps, we see that the north, even going back into ancient legends, on these maps you will see that the earth and the structures of the land look much different than what we see now. And there seems to be a center location, some call Black Rock area, and that there is a narrow strait that is the entranceway to the camp of the saints. And there is scripture that we also read where it says, "Narrow is the way," when it is talking about getting to heaven. So it is bizarre in some ways, but it is possible that the interpretations or what has been taught to us could very well be a misinterpretation or a purposeful misinterpretation to hide in this short season, if it is true, to hide where this camp of the saints is and the truth of the story that Jesus did reign for 1,000 years and that now the saints are in this place the Bible referred to as the camp of the saints. And they are there until a time when Satan gathers his armies of the world to go to battle against. So, what we are looking at now is trying to decipher and figure out where this camp of the saints is. Those who believe in a flat earth model map believe that it is in the center area called the North Pole. There are also some who believe that it's beyond the ice wall in Antarctica. Now, this possibility could be real, as we have seen ancient maps as well, showing that there is land masses beyond the Antarctica. We do have maps of ancient times, showing Antarctica with animals and castles and people living there not that long ago. In fact, maps that go back 1,500 years showing that it's possible that this freeze or whatever has taken place from this thing called the mud flood and the freezing of Antarctica and all these things that took place could have been a more recent event than we have been told. We do know that quite a lot of things were altered in the early 1900s and late 1800s in our history books and in our schools. And it only takes a couple generations to erase the knowledge of the past. So what we're looking at in this odd sense of the word is it true that the Camp of the Saints is either in the North Pole or beyond the Arctic Wall? We do know that the Earth is larger than what we've been told. The images of the blue marble that we have been shown for so many years all stem from the Apollo mission, which in a leaked footage documentary called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, they discovered the footage that was used to capture the blue marble. The Apollo was supposed to be almost to the moon at the point at the time that they filmed the Earth. What it turns out to be is that the astronauts were actually not that far from the Earth, and they had put a silhouette into the window and placed the camera on the far side of the Apollo. And from that, they then did an audio with whoever they were speaking with. And in this audio, you hear them talking about the distance and what was going on, and all of that could have been just dubbed in later. But at the end of this, they thought either the camera was off or the footage that was retrieved had not been edited, and the astronauts removed the silhouette that was in the window, of which we have the image of the blue marble. The problem is that they removed this silhouette, and when they did, the actual size of the Earth filled the entire window, and who knows how far it went beyond that. So the image we have of the blue marble, of which all computer programs and all imagery since that time photoshopped, we have this image of the Earth that shows a certain size. And from that, we have created our maps, and we have created our school systems, history, our mathematics and stuff based off of this false image of a smaller Earth, be it round or flat. It is actually much larger, which would go along with the ancient maps and the ancient continents that are mentioned beyond the ice wall. So, my friends, you cannot go and begin to deny this when the evidence becomes so real. Many who are on the ship with this of the ball Earth and the things being exactly the way we have been taught in school have never seen this footage, nor will you ever unless you look for it. Now, the size of the Earth being larger could place the fact that aliens and different beings, or possibly smarter people with different technology, can be traveling from those areas, and they're not actually coming from outer space. This is a concept that falls into play here. But today we are focusing on the Camp of the Saints, and it is our premise that it is in the North Pole area. And we find it quite bizarre that now, where you used to see continents on the map or structures in this area, when you go to search it on Google Maps, it is blurred out, a huge region. There are those who say that men have traveled to the North Pole. However, the problem with this is no one has been to the actual North Pole. They just simply walk out somewhere in a general region on the ice, and they place down a marker and begin jumping up and down and claiming they're in the North Pole. But we find this is not actually true. So the research that we have done in Search For is looking into the actual place of the Camp of the Saints. We know that this area, from legend and even in current times, no one is allowed to travel there. But we find a bizarre documentary of this from an admiral. His name Admiral Byrd. He was the most decorated and the youngest admiral, and he led several trips to the Antarctic, studying the area, and even claimed that when they went down there with a fleet of ships, that they encountered UFOs and entered into battle with them and lost that battle and came back with a crippled fleet. So this is quite bizarre, but the most odd encounter is his trip to the north, going to the North Pole, and his encounters then with being his airplane being taken over and then guided in by craft and landed without them. This craft landed his airplane and he was taken into a city. Now, what's very strange about all this, being an admiral, it would be odd that he would make very crazy claims on a funded mission, that when he passed away, because they began trying to label him as crazy, they went in and confiscated his all of his notes, his works, and his recordings of the events that happened. Much like they do to doctors who discover cures for certain diseases, they will go in and capture all of their information, and oftentimes they will destroy it. We also know that when Tesla died, the government went in and captured all of his information, and we never saw it again. So in this episode of The Search For, we are looking at the possibility of the location of the Camp of the Saints. Now, we cannot know for sure if this is it, just as I have not traveled there. We do know that the information surrounding this area is quite shrouded and quite covered up. There is a reason for this, and we do not believe that it is someone hiding some kind of protective technology for their country. We believe that it is a systematic and a worldwide cover-up to hide this information from you, from the knowledge of where the Camp of the Saints is and where Jesus, if still reigning on this earth, could be located. So, if those of you who believe in the Bible and that there will be a time when the nations of the earth gather together an army against the Camp of the Saints, that this could be very well be the location where the people could come from all four corners or the four areas of the earth and close in on the central location in the North Pole. So this is speculative, but this is very interesting to begin opening the doors. We will discuss this matter further on our inner circle that you can join and begin to enter in information on your own, investigate and share information with others, and provide us with more details. We will also discuss things that may not be allowed on this platform that you may be interested in. So you can find a link to join up with this discussion group and this inner circle in the link below in the description. The description area is located just below the video, where oftentimes you will see something that says more. You will also find there a book that will help you in your search for answers called Reason to Believe. This particular book goes into very much detail into helping you realize that the world we have been taught, the information we have been shared, has greatly been a deception. It goes into information that shows you in a provable manner that cannot be denied that we are being led astray on a spiritual basis, a historical basis, and a reality basis. Also, we have another book for you because we know that the forces at work in this world today are working to deceive us in a financial manner, in a health manner, in a psychological manner. And if you would like to further grow yourself in the manner that God wishes you to grow with thoughts and insights, we recommend you getting this book called Millionaire Mindset. And yes, it has my face on it. And this book is not necessarily just about becoming a millionaire, but the mindset of becoming wealthy in mind and wisdom like Solomon. Also, these particular stories that we use on and come up with scenarios, we have developed a formula to show how the deception of the world is taking place. And so you can find a link for this formula below. And within that, you can watch a video that describes how to use it and how to apply it with AI to create podcasts, to create mini books, or to create scenarios that answer the questions, hard questions about life and how we might be being deceived about the world we have been taught about. Let me ask you something.
Have you ever seen a headline and thought, there's got to be more to this? Everybody has, and nowadays especially. What if you could dig a little deeper into it and find out stuff nobody's talking about? So here's the deal. I've got this formula I created, and it's been back engineered based off of how, let's say, secret people create scenarios for you to follow. It's kind of like your own personal conspiracy scriptwriter. You take any mainstream story, you plug it in, and boom, it spits out an alternative explanation that's so spot on, you might start to question reality yourself. Now, here's where it gets fun. When you combine it with AI, it's like having a superpower. You can whip up these crazy X-File level theories in just seconds. Use it for blog posts, use it for podcasts, you can use it for videos, or just to mess with your own head. The best part is, it's so good, it might even convince your woke friend. Ha! Maybe. But look, it's all for entertainment, mostly. So if you're curious, if you like to live outside the box, or if you just want to see what they may not want you to see, you can check it out below. It is what we use for most of our alternative theories in our podcast and our videos, because it is the formula that possibly someone uses to pull the wool over the world's eyes. You're going to love this formula. Get it in the link below. You get a video that comes along with the training and proof behind it, as well as your own copy to use to become like Sherlock Holmes for all the things that you question and want answers about. It's a lot of fun, and it answers a lot of serious questions you've been wondering about.
The Silent Dominion. A non-fictional scenario of how a remnant of fallen angels maintain dominion of the known realm of Earth after the millennial kingdom of Jesus, and the saints have gone to the camp of saints possibly in the true north, hidden by the blocking out of the areas on satellite imaging. In the high offices of power, where wealth, influence, and decisions affecting millions converge, a secretive network existed, unseen to the masses. These were not ordinary people. They had been chosen. They had volunteered, in exchange for knowledge and power, to carry out a hidden agenda that spanned centuries, an agenda orchestrated by remnants of ancient fallen beings. After Christ's millennial reign had ended, a cataclysmic event had buried the remnants of that kingdom. Satan and the fallen angels, though bound by divine law from directly interfering in human affairs, found ways to manipulate the course of history. Forbidden from acting physically, they sought those who were willing to act on their behalf, humans they could endow with hidden knowledge, influence, and power. The recruitment process was subtle but deliberate. They didn't appear in dark robes or perform sacrificial rituals, at least not at first. The fallen angels whispered through dreams, through influential figures, and through ideologies disguised as philosophies or religions. A struggling politician, a high-ranking military official, or a rising tech mogul would be approached, quietly, efficiently, and without spectacle. The offer was simple: serve us, and we will give you the knowledge to control economies, shape nations, and rise to unimaginable power. The initiates were slowly brought into the fold. They were given access to ancient, guarded texts, not mythical tomes but documents that revealed how to manipulate societal structures, financial systems, and media narratives. These teachings were not entirely foreign. They were extensions of principles humans already used, but fine-tuned, enhanced, and weaponized. The fallen angels, with millennia of observation and understanding of human nature, knew exactly how to cultivate power. They gave their followers access to strategies that allowed them to control political factions, influence economies, and manipulate cultural trends. There was no need for overt possession or supernatural displays. The knowledge itself, honed and precise, was more powerful than any overt interference. The structure. At the top of this hierarchy were a select few, the elite, who directly communicated with the fallen angels. They acted as intermediaries between the angels and the human world. These were powerful individuals, leaders of major industries, financial systems, and governments. Some were born into this structure, while others rose through merit or ambition. Each was bound by a single, unspoken law: absolute secrecy. Below them were the handlers, individuals responsible for recruiting and managing lower-level operatives. These handlers infiltrated corporations, governments, religious institutions, and media outlets. They weren't obvious. They might appear as respected CEOs, influential religious leaders, or charismatic social media influencers. Their role was to guide public opinion, destabilize movements that opposed their agenda, and create chaos where control could be gained. At the base were the operatives, those who carried out specific missions. They could be politicians who pushed controversial laws, media figures who spread disinformation, or even grassroots leaders who unknowingly served a larger agenda. They often believed they were acting out of their own volition, convinced that the knowledge and opportunities they'd been given were their own achievements. The knowledge. The fallen angels gave their human followers access to ancient principles, ways to control economies through debt manipulation, to shape cultures through entertainment, and to divide societies through orchestrated conflicts. This wasn't magic. It was a precise understanding of human psychology, sociology, and economics, passed down through secret societies, exclusive clubs, and elite schools. For example, initiates were taught how to create controlled opposition. By funding both sides of a conflict, they could ensure that no matter the outcome, the ultimate agenda was served. They learned how to create economic crises, allowing them to buy up assets and consolidate control when the dust settled. They were instructed on how to manipulate media narratives, ensuring that the public remained distracted and divided, while real decisions were made behind closed doors. In return for their loyalty, these followers were given power, real, tangible influence in the world. They gained wealth, control over corporations, and seats at the most influential tables. But the price was their soul, not in the metaphysical sense, but in the sense that they could never act outside the agenda. Every decision, every law passed, every business venture had to align with the greater plan. The agenda. The ultimate goal of these fallen angels, and their human proxies, was to keep humanity distracted, divided, and spiritually disconnected. The remnants of Christ's millennial kingdom, buried beneath layers of mud and time, were to be forgotten. Any evidence of that divine reign had to be suppressed. This was done through control of academic institutions, religious bodies, and cultural narratives. The followers of this agenda believed they were bringing about a new world order, one where they would reign supreme. They envisioned a future where humanity would be fully controlled, where freedom was an illusion, and where the remnants of Christ's reign were erased from history. However, what they did not realize was that they were merely pawns, serving an ancient evil whose ultimate goal was to prevent humanity from ever recognizing the truth, that they had once lived under the peaceful reign of Christ, and that the world they now lived in was a counterfeit, built on lies and deception. The control. Every facet of society was touched. Financial systems were manipulated to create debt, ensuring that entire nations remained in economic bondage. Media outlets disseminated narratives that kept the public divided, distracted, and easily controlled. Religious institutions were infiltrated to ensure that true spiritual awakening never occurred. And every time a truth seeker got too close to uncovering the reality, they were silenced through discreditation, destruction of their reputation, or, in extreme cases, physical removal. The fallen angels had perfected the art of control, and through their human proxies, they maintained a silent dominion over the world. Their followers, convinced of their own superiority, continued to rise in power, unaware that they were building a system designed to keep humanity from ever reclaiming the truth of Christ's reign. And so, the world turned, its people unaware of the ancient war being fought beneath the surface of their daily lives. Only a few, scattered and isolated, understood the depths of the deception. They knew that while the fallen angels and their followers controlled the systems of the world, they could not control the hearts and minds of those who still remembered the truth, that Christ had once reigned, and that his kingdom would rise again.